Hey guys, welcome back. I want to bring you guys up on a quick update on something I've been really thinking about in getting the S550 Clockspring to work in the S197. So if you recall, we have 4 steps we need to get through. We need to get power from the fuse box. We need to ensure we can use the S550 Clockspring because that's the one that has the heating element built into it. We want to relocate the thermistor wires because, again, as part of using the or reconfiguring the controls in the S550 steering wheel for the S197, we lose 2 pins in the S550 Clockspring. So we're going to relocate those thermistor wires outside. And then finally, there's going to be no button for turning on and off the heating element. I want to revisit this one, which is using the S550 Clockspring. Specifically, we talked about getting the wipers to work, getting the turn signals and the high beams to work, and I think that we've completed that. There's one issue with this, however. I like to make my installations as least invasive as possible, okay? What that means is I like to buy the corresponding connector for the harness or for a dash so I can just plug in instead of repinning connectors, right? We have one single solitary issue with that, and that is that the S550 Clockspring does not work with, the S197 Clockspring. Unfortunately, the C2274A connector is a connector which has no corresponding male counterpart to it. So if I were to come to say, let's bring this up here, let's take a look at our documents, and let's go into our connectors. If we go into our connector list and we go to S197, and we go down to C2274A, this connector, unfortunately, does not have a male counterpart that is not built into the Clockspring itself. The distance between the row on top and the row on bottom is actually a very odd distance that doesn't exist in any sort of connector I've been able to find. If you guys are able to find it, please let me know. I would love to understand that. Unfortunately, that puts us in a bit of a conundrum. So what I'm going to be doing to deal with this is, if we were to look over here, this would be our S197 C224 Clockspring or Clockspring connector. What I plan on doing is I plan on depinning that connector, replacing it with a standard, probably Molex 16-pin female connector that will utilize the same pins. Then I'm going to make an interconnect harness that splits. It will split and it will have the C2274A connector over here. And it will also have a generic, probably the same Molex connector female over here. That way, I'm essentially creating a Y in the harness, and I can flip-flop back and forth between clock springs or steering wheels as I see fit. Without having to repin anything, I'll only have to do it once. Then from there, I can make a separate harness that will allow me to plug directly into this one, which will connect my S550 Clockspring and my steering column control module Clockspring assembly 10-pin connector, and it will all go into one. So this is going to be the plan for this. The other thing that I think is extremely important to note, and I'm going to be very careful while I'm doing this, is that C2274A, this connector, is no longer sold. Well, it's not that it's no longer sold, but on, I believe it's either Mauser or DigiKey, one or the other, this connector, you can only buy it in groups of like 1,000 or 3,000. So if you see here, it's not sold on Mauser, restricted availability. If I come over here to DigiKey, you'll see on DigiKey, minimum quantity 15,000, which is not something that we can sustain. So unfortunately, that's an issue for us. I may actually reach out to Tyco Electronics directly. You know, I've had some luck with some other manufacturers saying, "Hey, I was able to, you know, I'm a DIY hobbyist. You think you can send me any samples? If you have any laying around, I'd be happy to pay shipping." And sometimes they'll send them, sometimes they won't. So I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna reach out to them. If they get back to me, that's great. If not, I'm gonna be very careful as I depin this connector, so that when I create this harness, I will have my original OEM connector here to work on. So this is going to probably take me a little while to get done and get put together, guys. So you may not hear back from me in you know, a week, couple weeks. You know, we're approaching Thanksgiving, but keep in mind or rest assured that that's my next step, because then I can get the Clockspring installed, test out all the functions, test it out, and then from there I will go about getting the power run within the car, so I know that I can have my always on high beams running as well, which will basically be here. Okay. All right, guys, that's it. Told you it was going to be a nice quick update, and more to come. So catch you in the next one. See ya.